y'all, so today I'm going to do a Q&A for 200 subscribers. I am so thankful for everybody that has subscribed. I can't even imagine having 200 subscribers. I remember when I started out and I only had like 4 people watching me, and it just means a lot to me. So I thought today I'd answer a couple of questions while we made dumplings. Let's get right into the questions. So I divided the questions that y'all sent me into 2 overall general categories. There were some questions about bookish related materials, and then there were some personal questions. So I just decided to go ahead and divide them up. Let's start off with some of the personal questions. I like chop up these chives. While I'm answering the questions, Ben and I are actually making dumplings. We make them from scratch, minus the wrappers, because we tried in the past, and we either don't get like the texture right of the dough, or we can't like roll them out thin enough, and it takes a long ass time. So we just buy the wrappers and then we make the filling and then we wrap them ourselves. Let's get into question number 1. How did you and Ben meet? Like, what is your origin story, or what's like your cutesy story? So Ben and I met in school. We both went to UC Berkeley, and when we were both freshmen, we used to work for our school's cafeteria. So we went a couple of years without talking. We actually didn't talk our sophomore or junior year, and it wasn't until our senior year where we started hanging out again because of mutual friends, and we like weren't romantically interested in each other at the time. We were just hanging out as friends, and you know, we had really good times together. And so after we both graduated, we started hanging out a lot more, and I think that's when we started like thinking like, hey, this might be like a cool thing. And I guess that's our origin story. The next question is, what is your favorite wine? So my favorite wine is from a winery called Klein, and I really love their Syrah. The first time that I had red wine in general was with my really good friend Heather. Heather, if you're watching, hi. So she's the one that introduced me to Klein and to Syrah and to red wines in general. I wasn't a really big fan of red wine until I met her, and I just tried this and it's so good. It's very herby, but it's also very palatable, and ever since then I've just been exploring other red wines, and now I love red wine. But yeah. The next question that I got several times is like, what do you do on your free time, or what are some other hobbies that you have besides reading? And this was a hard one because I feel like the things that I do, I don't describe as hobbies. It's just more like a lifestyle choice for me. So I often feel like I'm boring because I feel like I don't do anything. But Ben and I in general, we like to go hiking a lot, we go backpacking, we go camping. We love doing like summer sports and winter sports. We go kayaking a lot, canoeing, and during the winter we like to snowboard. So currently we've been going up to the mountain a lot, and I'm a novice snowboarder still. It's my 3rd season, but I'm still pretty bad at it, still learning. I like learning languages. So Spanish is my first language. I also know English, obviously, and we both know French, but his French is better than mine, and my accent is horrible. I remember one time we went on vacation to Mexico, and oddly enough we ran into some tourists there who were from Spain and from France, and they only spoke, well, one of them only spoke French, and we were trying to communicate with her in French because she didn't speak English. She only spoke French and Spanish. Ben only speaks a little bit of Spanish, but he speaks really good French. We were trying to communicate with this lady who speaks French fluently, and it was a mess. So I definitely want to practice my French a lot more, really hone it in. And Ben speaks English, and he also speaks Mandarin, so he's trying to teach me Mandarin. It's a lot more difficult than I thought it would be to learn. I'm still learning it. I know very little phrases. I'm really working on my tones, but eventually I really want to hone down French and Mandarin so that I can be trilingual, quadrilingual, yeah. So that's what I like to do on my free time. Who is your favorite Brooklyn Nine-Nine character so far, and who do you identify with the most? My favorite character so far is Charles, and that's because he's just so wholesome and he's just really well intentioned. Yeah, he's just really awesome. But I also think he's like very goofy, and he's not afraid to be himself, which is something that I really strive to do. You know, just be myself and be really goofy. But the person that I identify the most with is Amy. It's a little bit cringy watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine sometimes because Amy reminds me so much of how I was when I was a lot younger. Like I was always this like super well prepared person who loved to please people, and I always needed to be like on top of my game, and I always needed to like feel and look put together. And I was a perfectionist before, definitely less so nowadays, but she reminds me a lot of my younger self, and it's a little bit cringy to watch that. Another question that I got is, how do you like your eggs? Definitely not fertilized, for sure. But in like all seriousness, I love eggs. Like, I kid you not, I can eat like 9 eggs a day. I'm also having a really hard time right now separating this wrapper. The next question is, how would you describe your aesthetic? I'm not sure what this person meant in my, like personally, like with my style, the way that I dress, or in my videos, because I feel like they're different. I am not talented enough to film and edit videos to the aesthetic and the quality that I currently want. Like I just started filming with this camera that I have, but before, like I really don't know how to use it and how to correct for exposure and lighting and stuff like that. My editing also pretty much sucks because I edit mostly on my phone, so I don't have like this fancy editing software, but that's going to change soon. I really want to start using Final Cut Pro. Yeah, so I feel like my videos don't match the aesthetic that I usually strive for. So those were all the personal questions that I got. I'll move more into the bookish related content. Okay, so first bookish related question is, what's the book that got you into reading? Oh, I can't remember what the book is that got me into reading when I was really, really young, because my aunt and my uncle used to read to me when I was a lot younger, but all those books were in Spanish. But recently, like what got me like avidly into reading this past year was actually a book that Ben recommended to me, and it's called The Sherlockian by Graham Moore. But it's basically a twist on Sherlock Holmes. So he writes about Arthur Conan Doyle, and what if Arthur Conan Doyle ended up like leaving this mysterious diary of him, like an extra story basically of Sherlock Holmes. And there's these people who are intense fans of Sherlock Holmes, and they want to find this diary, and so they have this convention, and someone at this convention ends up finding the diary, supposedly. We don't know. That's part of the plot. We don't know if he did find it or not, but this person dies, and so we have our main character who's trying to solve this like murder mystery. He's trying to solve the murder and also find the diary, and it's really fast-paced, it's really fun, really got me back into reading, and it's a book that I go back to if I have a reading slump. It's a good book to check out. Is there any book that has a special place in your heart or has great meaning to you? Yes. Yeah. So the book is called Eat, Pray, Love. I have this like really old battered copy that I've had since I was like a teenager, and the reason that it's really significant to me is because I personally struggle a lot with depression, and even though I have a handle on it now, I didn't when I was younger. And I just had like really dark days where I would just like cry myself to sleep every night. You know, I just struggled every single day basically. And for some reason I picked up that book. I don't know where I found it, I don't know how I found it, but I ended up picking that book. And I read it, and it's basically about this author who is in a failed marriage. So she's getting a divorce, and she still loves her husband, but for whatever circumstances, they're not good for each other. And so she works in publishing. She's a writer, and her publishing house gives her an advance to write this book. So she ends up going on a year-long trip to 3 different places, one of which is Bali. I believe the other place is Italy, and I forgot the last place that she goes to, but she ends up going on this self-finding trip, and she also deals with depression and loneliness, and you know, she's going through her divorce, and she's just trying to find who she is as a person. And just reading that, she was like in her mid-30s, and I was 15 years old when I read it, maybe 14, I can't remember, around that age. So because of that, like there was like a big age difference, right? So you would think that I can't relate to her, but just the way that she described feeling extremely lonely, and no matter what she did, this like loneliness wouldn't leave her, and like she constantly felt trapped and isolated, and like she didn't have anywhere to turn to. That's how I kind of felt when I was younger, and it just really resonated with me. So it's just a book that has a lot of meaning to me, and I haven't reread it in a very long time because I'm a little bit afraid to. What are some of your all-time favorite books? So I kind of want to make a dedicated video for this just because there are so many, and this video would be so long if I just talk about them, but I can go ahead and name some off like off the top of my head. And one of them has to be Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, The Picture of Dorian Gray, Night by Elie Wiesel, I believe that's how you pronounce his name.
I said Wiesel.
Or Wiesel.
It sounds like I'm wrong though.
No, I have no idea. Wiesel. No, I feel like that sounds right. I think my all-time favorite book is Hunger by Roxane Gay. I love that book. Which brings me to my next question, which is, who is your favorite author? And I feel like this is a difficult question because before I used to not read like several works by many authors. I really like to explore different authors and different things and different genres. So because of that, I tend to not read one author all the time. But if I had to pick a favorite author based on just one of the books that I've read by them, it would have to be Roxane Gay. Just the way she's able to capture her feelings and human emotion and just write with such like rawness and sincerity, but also make you as a reader feel something even though you haven't gone through half of the stuff she's been through. It's very powerful to be able to communicate that, put your feelings out there, be able to write them down and then have them connect with someone else on the page, you know? So I don't know if this is a trick question, but the next question is, what is the first book you're going to buy in 2021? I don't know if you're trying to trick me, but I'm not going to buy books in 2021. Sneaky. But in case you meant 2022, the first book that I want to buy is Hood Feminism because I listened to it on audiobook and it's so good. If you haven't read that book, it's a nonfiction book. It talks about the intersectionality of feminism and basically how white feminism leaves out marginalized groups and how feminism is really about basic necessities like securing housing, food, making sure that neighborhoods have transportation. Like it was just such a great and enlightening read and I learned so much. So that's definitely a book that I want to have on hand so that I can tab up and write in and reference. So good. You should check it out. What's a modern invention that you would introduce to your favorite character and what would their reaction be? One of my favorite characters from a series that I'm reading right now is actually Vin, and that's from the Mistborn Era 1 series. And I don't know, modern technology that I would introduce to her. One of those, you know those like doggy cameras that they have where you could check in on your pet when you're at work? But okay, so I would introduce her to that so that she can put one in Ellen's room because she's always worried about Ellen. So if she has a doggy camera for him, she'll be fine. Like she'll be out at night in the mist patrolling and she doesn't have to worry about Ellen because she can just check her phone, look at the doggy camera and see that everything's fine. I feel like that would be perfect and I think she would really like it because she doesn't want to be around guarding Ellen all the time. You know, she wants to go explore and be a Mistborn and whatnot. So I think she would really enjoy that actually. So the next question is, what tropes or themes would your ideal book contain? This is also an interesting question. I feel like I'm at a point in time where I'm still learning what kind of reader I am. I feel like before I stuck mainly to reading nonfiction, classics, and literary fiction. Those were my three main genres. But this year I started branching out into fantasy, sci-fi, horror, thrillers, and just every other genre. I feel like because I've been reading in so many varied genres, I haven't honed in like which specific tropes that I like, if that makes sense. But overall, I personally really enjoy books that teach me something, you know, where I'm learning something new, or I enjoy books that are weird and push boundaries and they like blend genres and have different types of elements, like just really weird, And thought-provoking books. That's another thing that I really look for in books. Something that is going to make me question either my morality or the way that I see the world, and is going to challenge those beliefs. I really enjoy books like that. And then the fourth thing that I really look for in books is something that's going to expand my view. So it's either taking place somewhere else in the world that I'm not familiar with, or it's introducing me to things that I wasn't aware of. I really like those kinds of things in my books. And in terms of like atmosphere and the way that they make me feel, I really enjoy books that are dark. I don't know why. Like, I like dark books. I like books that explore human nature. I like morally great characters. Like, I don't really like happy books. I feel like that's something that I also want to read this year, because I feel like I like shy away from happy books because I'm like, why? The world isn't happy, and I feel like that's so pessimistic of me, but I need to read more happy books. Like, who is a character in a book that would be really boring to meet? And I had to think about this, because boring characters usually don't stand out to me because they're boring, so I ignore them. Like, the characters that really stand out to me are those that I really dislike or those that I really like. But I have actually a book for you, which might be a little bit controversial. Just all the people, all of them, every single one of them. I did not find one interesting person in this book. That was Anxious People. Sorry, I can't really tell you why they're boring because spoilers, but they were just all so uninteresting. I didn't find them to be like gritty or to be sensational or to be like flawed, even though they were flawed characters technically. They just seemed very mundane people who just didn't have their shit together, and that's fine. I don't have my shit together, and you know what, I'm probably also mundane and boring, but that's why I don't want to read about boring characters in a book. Like, I want to escape my own boringness and read about non-boring characters. They were just all boring to me. So that's my hot take for today. The next question is, why did you start your YouTube channel? So I'll actually go ahead and link my BookTube movie tag, because I talk about that question specifically a lot more in there. But just really briefly to answer that in this video, I started a YouTube channel for a lot of different reasons. One is that I got really into watching YouTubers or booktubers when, like, during quarantine and stuff, and I realized that there's not, or at least the really big booktubers tend to be white, and there's not a lot of like Latin voices out there. So I kind of just wanted to add my voice into the mix. As a Latina, I think it's important for me to speak up and talk about books too, you know, so just diversifying the pool, if I may. And the other thing is because I want to improve on coherently expressing my thoughts, emotions, and opinions. I feel like growing up, I just haven't been comfortable taking up space. And I want to do that. I want to learn how to take up space. I want to learn how to talk more coherently, more graciously, more effectively. I want to not be shy and awkward, which is another thing. I felt like my first few videos were really shy and like very awkward. And I just want to get more comfortable in my own skin. Even just hearing the sound of my voice, and the editing process is so difficult for me, because I'm sure no one likes to hear their own voice, because I definitely don't. I feel like it sounds annoying and whiny, and I don't like it. But you know what? It's my voice, it's me, and I need to love myself and accept myself for who I am. So I think BookTube is teaching me how to do that. So the last question is, if you could be best friends with any fictional character, who would it be? This one's a tough one, because there's so many great characters. But I feel like I would have to say it would have to be Noemi from Mexican Gothic. I just think that she is a badass. I love that she loves going to balls and parties and wearing dresses and makeup, but she also wants, like, she also pushes back against her dad during the 50s when women didn't go to school. She wants to be educated. She wants to pursue a degree. She doesn't want to just get married off to any one person. Like, she wants to find love. Like, I just think that she encompasses a lot of parts of a personality that are okay for women to have. Like, I feel like some people have this idea that women can't like dresses and also be a feminist or whatever, you know, and I feel like just let a woman do what they want to do and don't like narrow them down into these little paths. Like, I just like that she has so much of herself, and I love that she also has like this really big confidence, and she doesn't care, you know, she's just confident and she doesn't care what people think about her. So I think I like to be her friend, so that she can teach me how to be more confident. And I just think she's a really cool person. Well, she's not a person, she's a character, but you know what I mean. So those were all the questions that were sent in. Thank you so much if you sent one, and again, thank you so much for 200 subscribers. Y'all are the best. I'll see you on the next one. Bye!